Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. I have a word this week that we use in business all the time, and I found some interesting research on it, and I found a great guest to unpack this with. So I am honored to be hanging out with Stephen Pemberton. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you're co-founder and CEO of Elevatum. I love that word, Elevatum. So fill us in on what Elevatum is.
Yeah, so Elevatum is a e-commerce agency. We specialize in taking companies that are at a $500,000 a year mark and scaling them to over $1 million a year. And the way that we got there is we've done over $1 million a year in our e-commerce stores two different times, and we've made over $3 million online, and we've helped some of our clients get to over $1 million a year. So that's really the premise of Elevatum. And a funny story with the name is literally just elevate and momentum smashed together.
Oh,
And so that's how we got to the name of the company.
I was expecting some big Hebrew or Latin or something like that. So I love you took two words and smashed them together. That's even better. So that's awesome. Again, thanks for hanging out with us today. The word that I wanted to start off talking about was actually retention. You know, I see so many people, Stephen, that are trying desperately to grow their sales, and they're always looking for new markets. They're always looking for new customers, new opportunities, which I think are fantastic, right? I feel, and I wanted to get your feedback, I feel like we're missing the fact that retention, people that are already buying from us, is kind of like I feel like that's a really big missing spot. We seem to take for granted that. And I found a couple pieces of research, and it said one of them was for 2023. These are legit active stats that returning customers spend 67% more than new customers. So, I'm just curious because I know you talk a lot in your work about retention marketing.
Yep.
So fill me in on, first of all, what retention marketing is, and then kind of let's unpack this new customer versus existing customer.
Yeah, so I love this topic because not only have we worked in the e-commerce field, we've done B2B. And with our B2B, we've helped many coaches, consultants, and authors put on their virtual events. And we've done that all done for you. So there's been a lot of different aspects, even just outside of e-commerce. But the general consensus is the same. The way that you work with your clients is you're almost doing retention marketing every single time that you're interacting with the client. And if you want to get nitty gritty with the tech behind it, of course, you have your email automations, you have your text automations, just the simple things to always continuously stay in front of the people who are already working with you. And we hear about that, the automation side, when it comes to attracting new leads. How big is your email list or your text message list, all those things. But with retention marketing for us is most people think about it whenever you get a new sale, whenever you get a new client, is how do I fulfill for a client? For us, it's not just how we're going to take care of this client and fulfill for them, but also is how do we maybe go a little bit more above and beyond? Because we, even as you said, 67% of returning clients are going to spend more than a new client. And why is that? It's
Right.
because even with you and I, Dave, is with us just meeting, is it's going to be a little bit more barrier to entry because I'm just now meeting you.
Sure.
But if I'm a little bit further along down the road, I've worked with you for a year, and you say, "Hey, Stephen, it's been incredible working with you, and I want to continue working with you. This is what I think we should do." And it's even a more advanced, a higher ticket price because I've already seen the results that you can get me. I know,
Yep.
like, and trust you. It's much easier for me to say, yeah, I'm absolutely going to do that. And I think that retention marketing starts the day you start fulfilling, is the day you start working with your client. Because if you can sit there and work with your client at a high level, you start fulfilling the way that you said that you were going to on the front end. That's why they decided to start working with you. And you legitimately care about them as a person. I
Sure.
think that if you, and even just outside of the business stuff, you can actually sit there and say, well, how are you? How's your family? How are you really? You just seem way off compared to the last call we were on.
Yeah.
And just getting those people to open up and get to understand who they are and who you are, then it builds that deeper relationship. So they're going to want to stay with you because you understand them deeper than just at a business level.
Sure. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm curious, in your journeys, are you seeing a higher emphasis placed on business development than on business retention? Or is that, I mean, do you see
Yeah.
that a lot? And what do people, I mean, is it a blind spot that people don't understand or don't think about, or do they just assume that, hey, once a customer, always a customer? Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
So that's a fantastic question, because the way that I've seen it, especially with the landscape right now, is most people are always worried about their KPIs. Well, how many leads are we generating this month? How many new sales are we generating this month? And then you have the KPI of the lifetime value of a customer. We hear about those things,
Yeah.
but we don't dive deeper than lifetime value,
Yeah.
because you can put somebody where, let's say that you bought something from me and we never really interacted, but you're getting my team's fulfilling for you. You're going down the pipeline. Maybe you buy something else from me, but I'm not having that high touch with you. I'm not really interacting with you. And so there's no emphasis on retention. It's just emphasis on what else are you going to buy from me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where the distinction lies, is most of the time we focus too much on these bigger KPIs of attracting new leads and seeing how much they can get from us instead of how much can we give to them. And when you make that distinction, you say, well, what am I giving to them? And it doesn't have to be I'm giving them a PDF or I'm giving them a course for free or whatever it may be. It's
Right.
What are we giving them in our fulfillment process? What am I giving them with the interactions in our meetings? Because even as I was saying, when you put a higher emphasis on retention, then your lifetime value is going to increase. You can actually really have a mastermind that's $50,000 a year per person, and people stay and re-up because they feel like not only are they getting value from it, but they feel seen and they feel heard, because those are just basic human instincts, basic human needs to want to be seen and be heard.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think lifetime value of a customer is like words that people really wish they understood. And it's interesting because I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of Harley Davidson, which we're super proud of. I've done work with Harley dealers in Milwaukee, and they have it down. They know that the average lifetime value of a customer for Harley Davidson is it's over $200,000.
Wow.
Because they buy 4 or 5 bikes in their life, they buy a ton of clothes, they buy safety equipment, they buy, all this stuff, right? So they know that when you irritate a customer, because here's the reverse. I'm going to say it's 47%, but half of U.S. industries are experiencing about a 47% churn rate. So let's just call it half, right? So if you have 100 customers today, in whatever, a year from now, half of them leave. Now, the biggest reason that they're leaving is the poor customer service.
Yep.
Okay, so the interesting thing is now we have to keep refilling that pipeline because we're not doing a good job on the customer experience side. Harley knows, create a great customer experience, because then they'll stick around and then they'll fulfill that 200,000 plus lifetime of the customer. When you work with people, my question is on that lifetime value, most people, I'm guessing, really don't understand that concept, do they?
No, I think because it's almost ambiguous to a certain degree, unless you can have a good system in place to track them.
Yeah.
Because unless it's in most of the time, because people are in a hurry when they're creating a business, it's not, because back in the older days, it was, you took a while. Like the reason why these companies are big, especially if you look at the Japanese companies even now, is in Japan, they don't plan for a 1 year sprint or a 3 year sprint or 5 years, 10 years. They're planning for 40 years down the road. Sure. And when you're planning like that, when your planning is a little further out, is what are the steps? And when you look at lifetime value, a lot of times it's like, I don't care about how long they're with me. That's why the churn rate is so high. It's like, I just need the money right now. Yeah. It's like, this is my dream. This is my ambition. This is whatever it is. And I just got to pay bills. So I'm just trying to get clients on right now. If they leave in 6 months, great, but at least they paid me. And that's where that retention piece is missed. And lifetime value is much more than that. It's also about if you have a pricing ladder. So if you, let's say, because you were saying with Harley Davidson, is with Harley, their pricing ladders that they know, and with their lifetime values, they know that if you buy one, that eventually you're going to come back and buy another one. And then most likely you'll buy another one and you'll buy another one. And of course you got to look cool. So you're going to get the vest and you're going to get the helmet and you're going to get the saddlebags. Yep. And so what do you have this is actually really good when it comes to the customers you already have, is what do you have that bolts on to your main core product, your main core offering?
Sure.
Because oftentimes we just try to either A, put everything into one offering, or B, we just give them one little slice.
Right.
And then we try to bolt on too much.
Right.
But what if you have one really good offer that you're using to fulfill and take care of your clients, and then you have a secondary product that can attach to that offer? Let's say if you are doing something along the lines of e-commerce where you're helping somebody build their website. That's your main product. But let's say you're also helping them with, you can also help them with SEO. It's like, hey, I've been working with you to build out your whole website. Now that it's about to go live, actually, one thing to really help you on your launch is SEO. And we have that too. And if you've been helping them and taking care of them, then they're going to say, yeah, let's do the SEO too. And hey, now that we got the SEO done, I can also run your Facebook marketing for you to get you more sales. That way we can get off on the right foot. Yeah, let's do that too. What does that cost? Now your lifetime value has almost 3x because they've just, instead of buying one thing, have bought two other things on top of that. And that's what I look at for lifetime value, is what is your main offering, and then what are you attaching to it? Instead of saying, well, instead of doing that, I could just say, hey, I'm gonna build your website, and I'm gonna do your SEO, and I'm gonna do your marketing. It's like, give them the one key piece for that one exact who that you're speaking to. What are they in need of? Give them what they need, and then also give them what they want with the other things like your SEO and your marketing in this scenario.
That's awesome. And I think there's a balance there too, though, Stephen, because you've never seen Harley, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't recall Harley trying to jump into the automobile side, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you have to know what your strength is. You have to know, because like for you, if you built somebody's website and then you went ahead and offered those other pieces, and then you said, hey, I can also do your accounting for you. Right. I mean, it's like, man, you know, we have to be really careful, because I've seen, you know, the Walmart approach, right, where you get your teeth cleaned and your tires changed at the same time. You know, it just doesn't feel like that's probably works for smaller businesses like us. I'm guessing. No. Right.
No, for me on that point, just real quick, is I think that a lot of times we try to go wide to just cast a bigger net, cast a wider net, you catch more fish. But unfortunately, is the quality of the fish is not going to be as good. Like, there's a difference between throwing a net into the ocean and throwing a hook into the ocean. The hook may only catch one fish, but it may be very particular bait that catches a bigger fish that gets you a better haul. So the question is you can sit there and say, well, I'm going to charge $500 to do this one thing. Or it's like, or if you found a better industry, and instead of just saying, like you said, I'm going to get your tires changed and clean your teeth, it's like maybe you're just doing one of those things at a super high level, and you're doing it just for Rolls-Royce instead of doing it for your normal Toyota. It's like, hey, we only change tires and change brake pads on Rolls-Royces and Bugattis. The pricing of that is astronomically higher. The customer is astronomically different. So when you do something like that, now all of a sudden you're casting different bait, different hook.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to go back to something that you said, Stephen. You talked about email automation.
Yeah.
And so for the business owner and entrepreneur that's listening right now, those words are like music to their ears, right? Because it's like, you mean I don't have to do anything? Something's happening in the background, right? While I can go do other stuff. Until somehow it gets so complicated. And I'm in this exact same spot in all the companies that I've owned in the past. You know, you have this concept of, I want to keep, and I'm going to just use a number of 100 existing customers, right? For just easy math. So I have 100 existing customers in my business, whoever's listening, you know, and I want to keep in front of them, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's, you know, email blast, whether it's something, you know, I don't know what those touches are. And maybe also there's some people in there that I would like to have customers in the future. Is email automation as complicated as us laymen tend to think that it is?
It's just a different skill set.
Okay.
I think a lot of times when you go as a business owner, there's so many things that even for me, when I first became a business owner, there's so many things I didn't think of. I didn't think that I was going to have to learn sales and marketing and how to clean the toilets and all the different aspects that go into the business. And that's one thing that I've realized with email automation, especially. And I mean, now it's the landscape is drastically changing with AI and all the different intricacies of that. And I've been learning all of that as well. And it's a lot, even for me, who is very tech forward. The AI portion of it that's coming out, it's like, I don't know any of this. And is it really important? And then I sit there and I see people where they're running there's one guy that I know that he's going to save $1 million this year just because of AI integrations. And I'm going, well, that sounds pretty important to learn if I can save $1 million
Sure.
on it.
Yeah.
And but when going back to your question, email automation just takes a little bit of time to understand.
Okay.
Because once you have a general understanding, there's things that you could do. So using your analogy with the 100 existing clients, and then let's say that you have an email list of 125. So out of your 125, 100 have signed up, and you've got 25 that you're hopeful that will sign up.
Sure.
Is if you have that in a setup in whatever email automation software you want to use, is if depending on the software, you can do these things called tags. So you can tag a contact as already purchased. You can tag, if you have multiple products, they purchase this product, they purchase this other product. And
Okay.
then what I would suggest doing, or they haven't purchased at all, is if you have one big email blast for your newsletter, great, send that to everyone. If you have one where you're offering some kind of exclusive deal to the other 25, you don't want the other 100 to see that.
Sure.
So you only send it to the 25, and you can set
Okay.
that all up in automations using tags.
Okay.
And then just staying in front of those people, because then you can get really honed in with that. Where if you have someone who you have different price things and they took the highest tier, and let's say there's 5 of your 100 took that, is getting in front of them, that email may look way different. It's like, hey, you're a part of this exclusive mastermind, and because of that, I wanted to give you a sneak peek on what's coming. And then for everyone else, they don't know that. Maybe they get that later down the road. But it's not wildly complicated. It just takes a little time to learn it.
So is that stuff that you guys do at Elevatum?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, again, I'm always encouraging people whenever possible to download this to people that are good at it rather than try to do it yourself. And again, you can do whatever you want. I just think that I would much rather engage somebody like you to do that for me so that I can go do what I'm good at rather than, I mean, I enjoy learning it, but I tell you what, I'm the kind of guy that if I don't pick it up like instantly, I get frustrated, right? So that's why I'll never be able to play a musical instrument, because if I can't do the absolute best guitar solo like within the first week,
if you're not Eddie Van Halen,
I'm done, right? I'm done, right? I'm not interested in this. So so for people listening, again, if that email automation piece is important, especially when it comes to retention. Again, I go back to that piece. How do we keep our customers coming back? You know, we make the assumption that we're always top of mind for them. We make the assumption that when they need X, they're going to think of us, whatever our X is. And that's just not always the case. So, you know, that's where I think it's really important to re-look at, in addition to your business development. You know, I think about it, we're in the budget planning stages, right? And a lot of my clients that I work with in coaching, you know, Stephen, they have a budget set aside for business development, new opportunities, new ideas, you know, how to increase their fold of people, so to speak. It's hard to get them to think to carve out time or money or energy to retain people. But I think the other research says it's like, what, 7 or 8 times easier to sell to an existing customer as well. Is all of this, I'm from the B2B background, is all of this the same in the e-commerce area that you focus on?
Absolutely. And you just even some clarity around that is I actually do have 2 companies. I have HoloCo, which is a B2B, and then I have, well, both are technically B2B now. Okay. But Elevatum is B2B, working with our clients in e-commerce. HoloCo is B2B, working with business owners that are usually coaches, consultants, and authors, run virtual events or whatever little aspects they need, email automation, things of that nature, AI integration, since that's the new fun stuff. But when you're talking about it from that standpoint, yes, it is wildly important, whether you're B2B or direct to consumer, because this is, I can actually pull up a text message from a brand that I've purchased from in the past, where they sit there and they said, hey, because you bought from us in the past, we wanted to show you this new exclusive collection that's coming out. And what's beautiful about that is I didn't know that they were going to do that, right? Yeah. Like I bought, it's a workout line. And for me is I love working out. Mm-hmm. So I bought the way that they got me into their ecosystem was they they did a free plus shipping. And if you're listening to this and you say, what does that mean? Is they ran an ad that said, hey, if you usually these wrist wraps are $20, but you can get them right now for free. All you had to do was pay for the shipping. So I went on there and their shipping was $13. And I go, they're these little wrist wraps. I know it didn't cost $13 to ship it, but it was cheaper than if I bought them.
Sure.
So I went ahead and got them anyways. And then they did an upsell. So the upsell was to their most expensive product, which was a belt. And I went, well, I do need a new belt too. So I might as well get that. So I got that. And then it sent me to a downsell, which was like a t-shirt and a shaker cup. And I didn't get that. But that's how I got into their ecosystem. Sure. And what's beautiful is I sit there and I go, well, I didn't know they offered clothes. Yeah. So a lot of times, and I've had this happen. I talked to somebody last week and I said, hey, I actually do X service. I actually help with not only your Facebook marketing, but I'll help with your sales teams and doing these different aspects of your business. And they go, I didn't know you did that. Yeah. And this is someone that I've known for a while. So it is very important. That's why retention marketing is so important. And I wish that more businesses would focus on the already existing clients instead of getting new ones. Is because with the already existing ones, they may have come into your ecosystem for one thing, not knowing that you offer something else too. Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with just having this other product that you can attach to your main offering. Because if I didn't know that you did that, how am I supposed, like, maybe I went somewhere else to get that service, not knowing that it could have been done with someone that I already know, like, and trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. So I want to unpack that because, I mean, it's crazy. I owned a company that sold construction products in the past. And so it was interesting because we had people that would walk in and that's like the kiss of death is somebody saying, I didn't know you did that. Yeah. I just bought X. I remember a guy just spent $25,000 with another, company. And then he came to see us for a different part. Well, it was happened that we sold the same thing. And he's like, man, I wish I would have known because I would have bought that from you. And I'm just like, oh, that's like painful words, right? Yep. So, I mean, for people listening, it might be a blind spot for them, Stephen, where they don't have the thought of what other products there are. How do you get somebody out of their mindset of I'm doing everything, like I'm selling bolts. Why in the world would I want to sell nuts or whatever it is, right? I mean, how do you help people get out of that thinking to expand their horizon a little bit?
So I think that this is where most people, we were talking about it with business development, is most people get stuck in the fact that people are showing up just to buy the bolts, right? And they're not thinking about, well, they probably need washers too. Yeah. And so that's the big aspect of just changing your focus and asking those people. I think it's really important to ask the people who bought from you to say, hey, I know that you purchased these bolts from me. It's like, but what else are you looking for? It's like, you got this, but if I had some other offering, what would it be that would really help you? Oh, we know what would really help me is if you also had 2x4s, because I had to go to Lowe's for that. And I thought, and I would rather get it from you. Sure. And just being able to ask those questions and not being afraid. You're not going to sound like you don't know anything, but what's really great is just asking them. It's a super fast phone call. It's a easy email. It's an easy text message. Hey, do you mind if I ask you just 3 questions? One is, how's your experience been so far? When you decided to purchase from me, what were some of the driving factors that drove that purchase? And then since you bought from me, what else do you need? Like, what else were you in need of when you first made that purchase? And once you find out, it's like, oh, they really needed these other 2-3 things, and you get a consensus from your clients that if you have these 2 different circles, one is it's this circle here, which is this is all the different aspects of different things that people needed, and this is another aspect of what you offer, then you just look for the middle ground where the majority of people said that they needed this one aspect, this one extra service. Sure. And this is something that I can do, or I already do, and they didn't know about it. Now, great. And there is so much money that's found right in the middle. And that's where it's really important to ask your customers, what else were they looking for when they did buy? What else are they needing now that they bought that and they got back to the construction site? And did they get there and say, I have everything I need? Or did they get there and say, oh, shoot, it's like, I knew I needed to get this too. Right.
Wow. So you bring up a really good spot here, Stephen, and that's like the voice of the customer. Yes. If the voice of the customer doesn't play an integral role in the growth of your business, I feel like you're doing it with only one eye. and not that you can't do it that way, but boy, it's way easier to see everything when I ask the customer. Do you see that as, I mean, is that something that you guys do, is kind of in addition, like I'm going to call it like an email automation, or is there something there? If I had, again, back to my 100 customers, if I had 100 customers and I wanted to really get some information from them, like you're talking about, is it as easy as just taking a spreadsheet, getting 100 email addresses and doing a blind type of email to them and asking those questions? Or is there better automation out there? Are there better ways to do that now?
Yeah. So if let's use your 100 clients as an example, is I would do it the way that you were saying. I would get the spreadsheet and then I would import it into whatever automation I'm using, and then I would send a pretty generic email to all of them, which is, hey, thank you so much for being a client of ours. It's been amazing working with you. I was just wondering, would you mind taking some time out of your day to just answer 3 questions? I promise it'll just be a 5-10 minute call.
Okay.
And just having it set up to where somebody can book a call with you,
Hmm.
and just having the questions there so they can know it's like you're not trying to sell me anything. It's really
Sure.
just asking these questions. And then you get on a short little call with them and make it 5-10 minutes, nothing crazy. It's like, hey, I really am, it's just 5-10 minutes. These are my 2-3 questions. And then once they answer especially the last one, because it's almost like a soft pitch where
Yeah.
if they get to the end and it's, the one thing I really needed that I didn't see that you had was SEO services, and I just knew that you built websites. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't know that you didn't know that, but we actually do offer that as well. And it's like, oh wow, I didn't know you offered that. It's like,
Sure.
yeah, we do, but and it's like, and you don't even have to try to sell them right there. It's like, we actually do offer it. And if they say that's great, I need it right now, then you
Yep.
say, well, I would love to continue, but I said it'd be 5 to 10 minutes, so I don't want to take up more time. And if they go, no, I need this right now. It's like,
Yep.
okay, great. This is how we can continue forward. And then if it's if it's something that you don't offer, it's like, oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for letting me know. I hadn't even thought of that aspect. And then you just thank them for their time and you move on. But it
Sure.
really is not a sales call, but each one of those is like a soft pitch to people who have already purchased. And I think that that's where the beauty of it is just letting them know, hey, I do offer that too.
Yeah. I'm shocked at my travels around the country that people are not connecting more with their customer. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because even full disclosure, when you said pick up the phone and call, I'm like, okay, 100 customers, 5 minutes. Dude, that's 500 minutes
Yep.
minimum, right? I'm not sure I have that, so my brain immediately went to justify, not doing it, which again, I feel is something that I have to work on. And it's just crazy that people will give you, once you determine the value, the lifetime value of that customer, whatever that is, X,
Mm-hmm.
we all of a sudden are like, why would you not call that person?
Yeah.
Fine. How are we doing? People are like, I always need a reason. I feel like I want to talk to them about a project or whatever. And it's like, man, why not just thank them? Like you said, I love working with you. How are things going? I always ask the question, if we could do one thing better, what would it be?
Yeah.
And because if you say, how are things going? Most people are going to be like, good, they're fine, right?
Yeah.
You're not going
Good.
to get
Yep.
much out of them, but you got to kind of dig a little deeper. Do you have success with that last question about what are some things you wish that we carried, or however you're going to phrase that?
Yeah.
Do you see some pretty good results from that question?
Absolutely, because it's a very direct, and of course, it would be better than just the one I came up with right there. But it'd be more niche specific. But if it's very clear, where it's not as easy to go with good. No, I found everything just fine, because we do that, and when we're walking around a store and someone says, "Hey, can I help you find anything?" And you've
Yep.
been looking for 20 minutes for the pants, and you
Yeah.
say, "No, I'm just looking around." It's
That's
like
a guy thing, dude. That's
that
just
is 100% a guy thing.
yeah. The chicks go right away to that. Those us guys, man, we refuse. We'll walk around for hours lost, right?
Yes, but and that's what I mean is, especially depending on who your clientele is you want to make it a very specific question so they can't just give you a very generic answer. And
Yeah.
it's not an imposing question, because it's a question that you are genuinely just curious. And because they know that you're not there to make it a longer spiel, and you haven't let them know that there's a new offering coming out, and so they even kind of have a small hint that you're trying to sell them. It's actually just gaining knowledge, and you're letting them know it's like, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm actually just want to learn more, and I'm trying to improve my business. Same way that you're doing with that question of what's one thing we could do better.
Sure.
Is people are willing to answer that because they are wanting you to do better and wanting you to be better. So with asking that question, yes, we get great results out of that. Because even for me, when somebody asks me that, which I've had happen in the past, I'll be a part of a program and I'll get to the end and then we'll be shooting a little video review and they'll say, what did you love about it? This is what I love. What did you not like? This is what I didn't like. Okay. What is one thing that you wish you would, one thing you wish would have been different in this program? It's like, well, I wish this would have been different. It's like, oh, well, we actually do this too. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you guys even offered that. I wish I would have known that earlier, like you said. And it's just important to ask those questions and be specific because you'll be surprised. I don't think you'll find anyone that'll be like, oh, there's nothing else that I ever possibly wanted. It's like, I literally just sold you nails. So you just went home with nails and did nothing with nails.
Right.
Like you did nothing else with it.
Yeah.
And because you didn't need anything else. And it's like, nope. Okay. You may have a few outliers like that, but the majority are people who are going to just want to be genuine with you.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that the more that we can engage our customer in our business, and people are so afraid of that. They're so afraid of what's going to happen. Like, what are they going to see? What are they going to ask for? I know a lot of times people are nervous to ask that question because they're afraid of the answer. You know, what else? Well, could you do this? I mean, it's just a question. I mean, again, if you're in a space like you're in, and, you know, you're talking websites and you talk about SEO, if somebody said, well, you know, can you help me write a book or whatever, right? I mean, if it's out of your space, it's okay for us to say, man, what a great idea. You know, we never thought of that. Let me take it back, or it just doesn't fit into our plan, whatever. I mean, I don't think if you say no to a customer in that sense that they're going to like not ever buy from you again. I think the opposite is true. They're actually intrigued that you're asking them. I mean, us as consumers, we like to be kind of thinking in our mind that when we're filling out that survey, that we have something to do with the future of that company. So, do you see that a lot?
So I'm actually going to give you a sneak peek into what I do, especially with our companies, is when we're talking to people on a call like that, and they say, hey, will you help me write a book? And that I've had people talk to me and say, hey, I'm actually looking to write a book. Would you be able to help me with that? It's like, no, I can't help you. It's like, that's not something that we do, but I do know somebody.
Sure.
And what happens is when you do that, you're not trying to just hoard the business, and you say, I actually know somebody who's great. They've been in business for 23 years. They've helped hundreds of authors. They have actually written 19 books. They're going to be the perfect person for you. What's really cool about that is when you refer them to them, like refer somebody to someone else, is you're not only building a business relationship, but let's say that that's someone who is great and they give you a referral fee. So you're actually going to sit there and make money off of referring. You're doing justice to the client because the client is in need of something, but it's something that you aren't going to be good at. Even if you said, yeah, I can absolutely help you write your book, and you've never once written a book, you're not going to do justice to them. You're not really going to help them. It's going to hurt your brand. So if you refer them to someone who that's their main thing, that's their only thing they do. Or if it's like, hey, I know that you're helping me with my website, but I just got a flat. I was driving to work and my tire blew out. Can you help me with that? It's like, I can't, but I do know somebody in your city. Let me hold on. Let me see if I can find you someone. And just doing those little things where if it's not something you do offer and you don't feel comfortable with offering it, then just having a network of other people to say, this is somebody that I know and I trust them and they've done good work. Or if you don't know anybody, it's like, hey, I actually don't know anyone who does that, but that's a fantastic question. Why is there not anyone who does that? And I don't know anyone. Hold on, let me see if I can find someone. It's like, I'll see if I can find somebody. I'll shoot you an email if I do find anyone. And you're just doing justice to the people who are already working with you. They've already paid you. And it's that beautiful synchronicity to work with a community of people instead of just trying to say, I'm going to be everything all in one spot. I'm trying to be Walmart now.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a great position to be in with our customers, is like that kind of like, well, call Steven. He probably knows somebody, right? That's like a killer spot. I get that call pretty regularly. I do a lot of dot connecting. I love doing that. And it's one of those things that it's like, hey, Dave, who do you know that? And I'm like, man, number one, I don't even, sometimes I don't even know the person. Sometimes I don't even know the industry, but they have, placed that trust in me. I had somebody the other day on LinkedIn say, hey, somebody in your network I know, or I want to get to know them. And again, I don't want to overuse that, but I feel like it's really important to have that connection thought process so that your customers do think of you, because like you said, you might not do SEO, but somebody that does, and chances are, you, like you said, you'll find somebody to be able to help, and then you become that trusted advisor to your customer. I mean, nothing's better in my world than to have that happen on a consistent basis. So I appreciate that. A couple questions before as we're starting to land our plane. You talk about brands and growing and scaling and online type of stuff like that. And, I'm thinking for like the average entrepreneur that may be more on, I'm going to say present in, how do I even say it? They're present in their spot. They have 2 locations. They don't do a lot of online. They've worked with grandpa and he sold it to dad. Dad sold it to me. It's a 3-generation business. We haven't done online. No, we don't. That wouldn't work for us. Are there companies that you found that really online doesn't work, or are we at a point in our society where everybody should be online in some way, shape, or form?
I think everyone should be online in some way, shape, or form, just for one simple reason, which is what we talked about this entire show, which is getting your word out there. If I'm the 3rd generation, and the only time that I'm able to sit there and tell people about what I do is at church or at the mall or something, my customer, my reach is very, very limited. Yeah. But if I'm online and I'm actually on there, and I've actually seen this happen with businesses that are brick and mortar, especially, where all they do, there is a marshmallow company in Australia that is wildly famous on the internet because all they do is just show their manufacturing process. They say it's one dude with his voiceover. He'll have somebody say, hey, Jimmy, would you mind fulfilling my order? And they'll have a picture of their order on the screen. And they say, oh yeah, that's no problem. And they will literally show them cutting the marshmallows, tearing them apart, putting them into the plastic wrap, putting it into a box and putting a label on it. Sure. That's normal operation stuff. And it has got them I think almost 1 million subscribers on Facebook or on YouTube. Wow. So I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, if it can work in marshmallows, it can work. Right? It can work in every single industry. If you're a bait and tackle shop,